In a tense confrontation, Kelly faced me, asserting her claim to the house as her father's true daughter and demanding that I leave. Her words shocked me, but I couldn't resist laughing, teasing her about the secrets I held that she was oblivious to. As the moving crew stood by, waiting for direction, I instructed them to store the few belongings I had in an extra room. When Kelly tried to push her way inside, I stood firm, declaring the house was mine. Her frustration was palpable as she stormed away, but the confrontation only strengthened my resolve, especially in the wake of losing Jerry. I'm Megan, a 35-year-old music instructor married to Jerry, an entrepreneur 7 years my senior. Our relationship grew from a professional connection to something deeper, eventually leading us to consider marriage. When Jerry opened up about his past, he revealed that he had been married before and had a daughter, Kelly, whose custody he obtained after his ex-wife's betrayal and reckless spending. Kelly, raised by Jerry, seemed to have everything she needed, yet her demands escalated alongside his success. She became increasingly materialistic and rebellious, brushing aside Jerry's efforts to steer her right. From our first meeting during her high school years, it was clear that she harbored animosity toward me, insisting she would never accept me as a mother, favoring her beautiful mother and wealthy father instead. Despite her attitude, Jerry and I decided to wait until Kelly was an adult to marry, hoping she would mature. He regarded her as his only child and feared how she might react to having a sibling. With her refusal to accept me and my own hesitation about parenting, especially given Kelly's hostility, we chose to live child-free. Our marriage brought a sense of tranquility, abruptly interrupted by Jerry's cancer diagnosis. The news hit hard, and I found myself grappling with the reality of his illness and the looming emptiness of our home without him. As I wrestled with Jerry's deteriorating health, I faced another hurdle. Kelly, although we were technically related, our interactions had been minimal, making her sudden appearance all the more unexpected. It was clear she was aware of her father's condition, hinting at a recent conversation between them. With a blend of arrogance and mockery, Kelly claimed she would take care of both me and her father, emphasizing her identity as his real daughter compared to me, his wife. Her words stung, leaving a bitter aftertaste. When I reached out to Jerry to share this unsettling encounter, he expressed disappointment, hoping she had outgrown such childishness. I reassured him, downplaying the incident to spare him additional stress, though inside, I feared I might struggle to cope with Kelly's hostility, our significant age gap only adding to the challenge of building any sort of connection. As time went on, while my professional life remained stable, the strain of Jerry's cancer and Kelly's intrusive behavior took its toll on me. When she moved into our neighborhood, the tension intensified, marking the beginning of an even more trying chapter. The arrival of Sophia, Kelly's daughter, further complicated matters, effectively making me a step-grandmother. Kelly had quickly fallen into a troubled relationship after high school, repeating her mother's mistakes, leading to Sophia's birth and a fallout with the child's father. Though she received child support, it seemed Kelly was more focused on exploiting Jerry's illness to secure a future inheritance. Her blatant selfishness and manipulative tactics became increasingly apparent, with me overhearing her discussions about Jerry's wealth and her potential claims. The thought of burdening Jerry with these revelations was unbearable, so I opted for silence, shouldering the weight of Kelly's schemes alone. Over time, Kelly's requests grew more demanding, evolving from brief babysitting favors to prolonged stays under various pretenses that left Sophia in my care. This pattern reflected her complete disregard for my well-being and her intent to exploit the situation for her gain. Meanwhile, I struggled with the emotional toll of Jerry's illness, navigating a far more complex situation than I had ever anticipated. Consequently, I found myself stepping into the role of Sophia's unpaid caregiver, never considering compensation, simply because she was my step-granddaughter. My hesitance to refuse Kelly stemmed from a fear of neglecting Sophia's needs. Kelly's demands kept escalating, culminating in her request for me to babysit Sophia for 6 days while she took a vacation with friends. She brushed aside my concerns, insisting that I was always free, though I resisted internally. The threat of Kelly's retaliation loomed over me, compelling me to agree. Initially apprehensive about childcare, I found that Sophia's sweet nature sparked a flicker of affection in me. Still, Kelly's plans imposed an extra financial burden, especially with Jerry's mounting medical expenses. I had been covering the costs for Sophia's essentials, trying my best to manage without tapping into Jerry's funds. As the expenses rose and my role as Sophia's caretaker deepened, I began questioning why I was stepping in for Kelly as a parent. I resolved to confront Kelly about this when she returned, but my plans were abruptly derailed by news of Jerry's critical condition at the hospital. In the midst of the chaos, Sophia's cries mingled with the heart-wrenching news of Jerry's passing, enveloping me in profound sorrow. Kelly's absence during this time, justified by her vacation, left me to shoulder the funeral arrangements alone, a responsibility she casually imposed on me over the phone. Her indifference to her father's death and her expectation that I handle everything, including caring for Sophia, was astonishing. I made excuses to Jerry's relatives about her absence, trying to maintain some semblance of peace during the funeral despite her continued neglect. In the 2 weeks after Jerry's death, Kelly was unreachable, only to reappear later with movers in tow. Announcing her intention to move in and claiming her rights as Jerry's biological daughter, she demanded that I leave. Her assertion caught me off guard, but I couldn't help but laugh, hinting at a truth she was blissfully unaware of. My unexpected shift from typically submissive to surprisingly assertive visibly rattled Kelly. I instructed the bewildered movers to temporarily store her belongings. Asserting my ownership of the house and our lack of legal connection, I made it clear that her refusal to acknowledge me as a mother absolved me of any familial obligations, especially after she had taken advantage of my kindness. Faced with this reality, Kelly appeared disconcerted, finally confronted with the consequences of her actions. When Kelly announced her trip was over, I reminded her pointedly of her responsibilities as a mother and suggested it was time she cared for Sophia properly. Her dismissive reaction and hasty departure, leaving Sophia behind, left everyone present astonished by her irresponsibility. Her attempt to reclaim her place in the house under such disrespectful circumstances only fueled my determination to stand my ground. Despite her absence and the unresolved living situation, I found myself wholeheartedly committed to caring for Sophia, who had developed a deep attachment to me over time. With support from friends and Jerry's extended family, I navigated the complexities of childcare, integrating Sophia into my life and work. The community surrounding us, including my students' parents and Jerry's relatives, rallied to help, ensuring Sophia was cared for during my teaching hours. However, everything took a dramatic turn 5 months later when Kelly re-emerged, accompanied by law enforcement and a child welfare official, accusing me of kidnapping. Her unfounded allegations were met with my calm explanation of the events, which seemed to surprise the officials and clarify the situation for them. It became painfully obvious to everyone involved that Kelly's blatant disregard for her daughter, followed by her false accusations, was an attempt to deflect from her own irresponsibility. I emphasized Kelly's neglect and the potential legal ramifications of her actions, which seemed to resonate with her and prompted her to retract her accusations. This situation extended beyond simply resolving a false claim. It was crucial to address Kelly's irresponsible behavior and its impact on Sophia. The officer's appreciation for my transparency and the community's support further underscored the value of integrity when confronting unjust accusations. Kelly's panic and eventual realization of her precarious position illustrated the consequences of her actions, leading to a moment of accountability facilitated by the authorities and the collective presence of those who knew the truth. After Kelly's baseless allegations prompted a swift response from the community in my favor, she faced no legal consequences, receiving only a stern warning from the police. This incident appeared to humble her, resulting in a 5-month silence. During this time, I was left to navigate the complexities of Jerry's estate, given Kelly's status as his biological daughter and potential heir. Despite my numerous attempts to engage her in discussions regarding the inheritance, through various means including hiring a detective and sending legal notices, Kelly remained elusive. When it came time to settle Jerry's estate around the first anniversary of his passing, Kelly's continued absence forced me to seek a court intervention for a partition of the inheritance. It was only after the family court rendered its decision, one that did not favor her, that Kelly finally reappeared. Furious over being excluded, her misunderstanding of the inheritance process and her belief that she was entitled to a share, despite her lack of involvement in either legal or familial responsibilities, led to a tense confrontation. I had to clarify to Kelly that the inheritance proceedings began long before she thought, and her window to claim any share had long since closed. Jerry's explicit will, which she had disregarded, along with her failure to engage in any discussions regarding the estate, legally justified her exclusion based on his stated wishes and her neglect. When Kelly attempted to challenge the court's ruling, claiming that she had cared for her father and therefore deserved a share, her assertions were met with overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Records and testimonies confirmed her absence during critical times, effectively undermining her claims and reinforcing the court's ruling in my favor. Her subsequent, desperate attempts to assert her rights over Sophia, after previously denying any responsibility for her daughter, exposed the inconsistency and irresponsibility of her behavior. Kelly's actions made it clear that she was both unprepared and unwilling to provide for Sophia, further validating the court's decision and my role in Sophia's life. This series of events highlighted the importance of accountability, adherence to legal protocols, and our moral obligations to family members, especially in the wake of a loved one's passing. Sophia, my step-granddaughter, became the focal point in the complex dynamics with Kelly. After her prolonged absence and lack of engagement in Sophia's life, Kelly suddenly declared her rights as a mother. When I confronted her about her neglect despite receiving government child support, Kelly defensively insisted it was her entitlement. However, I pointed out the fraudulence of her actions, warning her of the legal repercussions she could face for accepting support without fulfilling her parental duties. Kelly's attempt to downplay the severity of the situation unraveled when I mentioned that I had recorded our conversation, securing undeniable evidence of her admission. This recording, safely stored in the cloud, was impervious to her attempts to erase her wrongdoing. As the reality of her predicament sank in, Kelly visibly panicked, fearing legal repercussions and the possibility of having to repay the fraudulently obtained support. Her desperation intensified when I revealed that the authorities were already investigating based on the evidence I was prepared to provide. In a last-ditch effort to maintain her financial support, Kelly demanded that Sophia be returned to her, exposing her selfish motive, which was partially rooted in jealousy over the bond one had formed with Sophia. Remaining composed, I suggested that any decisions about Sophia should involve her biological father. To Kelly's shock, at that moment, Benjamin, Sophia's father and Kelly's ex-husband, walked into the room. Contrary to Kelly's portrayal of him as an irresponsible club promoter, my investigation had revealed that Benjamin was actually a stable office worker, misrepresented by Kelly. When I reached out to him, his immediate and emotional response to seeing Sophia dismantled Kelly's accusations and showcased his genuine commitment to his daughter's well-being. This revelation peeled back the layers of Kelly's deceptive narratives and her manipulative attempts to exploit those around her for financial gain. The situation underscored the significance of truth, responsibility, and the welfare of a child caught in adult conflicts. When Benjamin confided in me about the true reasons behind their divorce, Kelly's infidelity and her misuse of maternal status to gain custody of Sophia, I was moved. He had quietly fulfilled his obligations and provided child support while yearning for his daughter. His affection for Sophia was evident, and it became clear to me that her well-being was paramount and deserving of a loving, capable parent like Benjamin. Determined to rectify the situation, I reached out to Child Welfare Services and sought legal counsel to explore Benjamin's options for regaining custody of Sophia. Despite Kelly's legal rights, her actions over the past 2 years, marked by negligence and a tendency to exploit Sophia's presence for her convenience, were hardly indicative of a nurturing mother. Behind the scenes, I worked tirelessly not only to resolve the inheritance issues but also to facilitate Sophia's return to a more suitable environment. With Benjamin on the brink of a significant career advancement, he presented a stable and caring alternative to Kelly's chaotic lifestyle. His consistent financial support and genuine concern for Sophia contrasted starkly with Kelly's self-serving behavior. As I confronted Kelly with the reality of her actions, including her fraudulent behavior and unstable relationships, it became clear that Benjamin's responsible and affectionate nature made him the obvious choice for custody. The facade Kelly had maintained began to crumble, exposing the extent of her manipulations and the repercussions of her choices. Ultimately, the court recognized that the best place for Sophia was with Benjamin, granting him custody. Though this decision might have seemed straightforward to some, it resulted from careful consideration and the collective support of those who had witnessed the unfolding drama. Friends, parents of my students, and Jerry's relatives expressed concern about the rapid transition but understood the importance of placing Sophia in a loving, stable home with her father, where she truly belonged. Throughout this challenging year, I grappled with the dilemma of whether to keep Sophia away from Benjamin, her biological father who loved her deeply. Before diving into Kelly's current situation, it's important to highlight the events that led us here. Kelly had faced arrest for fraudulently claiming child support while neglecting Sophia. Her entanglements with a boyfriend and another man who financially supported her only deepened her legal troubles, resulting in probation but no jail time. However, the ensuing custody battle exposed her deceit and desperation, ultimately leading to the court's decision to grant Benjamin custody. Kelly's downward spiral continued, as she lost not only Sophia but also her relationships and financial stability. Eventually, she found herself unemployed and living in dire circumstances, a stark reflection of her choices. In contrast, I lived simply, choosing not to access Jerry's inheritance, which I believed was meant to benefit Sophia. Jerry had been apprehensive about directly including Sophia in his will, fearing it might entangle her in legal issues, which led me to support her in indirect ways, such as providing gifts funded by the inheritance for special occasions. Recently, Benjamin had confessed his feelings for me, marking a new chapter in our lives. His acknowledgement of the bond Sophia and I shared, along with his respect for my status as Jerry's widow, led to a heartfelt proposal for us to become a family. This confession resonated deeply with the hidden message in Jerry's will, where he expressed his desire for my happiness after his passing. Jerry's words, emphasizing my well-being and happiness above all, provided a sense of closure and a path forward. Reflecting on Jerry's wishes, Benjamin's genuine affection, and what was best for Sophia, I began to envision a future where Benjamin and I could create a loving and stable environment for her. The thought of being present for Sophia's milestones, such as her first day of elementary school, filled me with hope. It symbolized a nurturing future for all of us, a testament to the resilience of love amid life's complexities.